Green Nation, get ready. The skies over Philadelphia are about to be carved by sharp wings and hearts on fire. We're not just counting down to the start of a new season. We're approaching another legendary chapter in our story. Even though the calendar claims there are still months to go, the sounds of battle are already echoing through the halls of Lincoln Financial Field. The Eagle doesn't sleep. She watches, she trains, she strategizes, and she's about to strike at full force. Today, I bring you revelations straight from behind the scenes, the kind of info that can shift the course of the season before the kickoff even happens. And let me tell you, something big is coming. But before we dive into the details, answer me this. Can you feel the call? If your blood runs green and white, and your soul carries the scars of every battle, from the glory years to the hard ones, then drop this in the comments. Go Birds! I believe in this team. Let's fly higher. This is our year. Now buckle up, Birds fan, because this first piece of news is going to make your heart race. Alright, let's jump straight in. There's been a ton of conversation about the Washington Commanders lately, and you might be asking, why does this matter to us? Well, the Commanders are a division rival, and any shift in their direction could directly impact the Eagles' path in the NFC East. Jimmy Kempski of Philly Voice recently dropped a piece analyzing 10 reasons why the Commanders could completely fall apart in 2025. And when I tell you it's juicy, I mean it's something every Eagles fan needs to hear. Let's break it down together, and as we go, think about what this means for Philly's playoff chances this year. Reason number 1, regression is coming. And it's not just speculation, it's backed by decades of NFL trends. The Commanders went from 4 wins in 2023 to 12 wins in 2024. That's an 8-win improvement, the biggest jump in the league last year, and historically, teams that make that kind of leap tend to crash hard the following year. Think about teams like the 2000 Colts, the 2009 Dolphins, the 2017 Cowboys. They all took a step backward in that crucial third year. Only 2 teams on a long list actually improved after that kind of breakout. On top of that, many of Washington's wins in 2024 were fluky. A missed field goal here, a backup QB there, a Hail Mary miracle. It wasn't exactly dominant football. And remember when they barely edged out the Eagles in Week 16? That was only because Jalen Hurts got hurt early in the first half. So if you remove the lucky breaks, their 12-5 record starts to look a lot more fragile. Let's move on. Reason number 2, some of the trades Washington has made are just plain strange. For Marshawn Lattimore, they gave up a 2nd-round pick. For Deebo Samuel, a 5th. For Laramie Tunsil, a 3rd. Even a 4th-rounder for what should have been day 3 depth. Lattimore missed most of last year with a hamstring injury and only returned for the playoffs looking like a shadow of his former self, and they're paying him $18 million this year. Deebo, once a star in 2021, has been trending downward since. He's out of shape, he's hurt often, and even during spring practices, he looked sluggish. That's who they're relying on. Sure, I'll give them this. The Tunsil trade makes sense. They need to protect Jaden Daniels. But overall, it's a collection of moves that don't exactly scream Super Bowl blueprint. And it doesn't stop there. Reason number 3, Washington made some baffling free agent signings too. The most glaring one? Javon Kinlaw. They handed him a 3-year, $45 million deal. That's $15 million a year for a guy who has struggled to stay consistent and was dominated by the Eagles back in the 2022 NFC Championship game. Philly made him look like a practice squad player. He signed a 1-year, $8 million prove-it deal with the Jets after that, and now Washington turns around and pays him big money? That's a serious overpay. And you have to wonder if Adam Peters, now GM in Washington, formerly assistant GM in San Francisco, is letting personal ties override smart business. Now here's something you'll love. Reason number 4, the Commanders are old. Yes, they might have one of the most electrifying young QBs in the league in Jaden Daniels, but the rest of that roster? It's closer to the retirement home than a rebuild. They've got 30 players who are 29 years old or older. That's more than any team in the NFL. The next closest teams, the Falcons, Lions, and Texans, each have 19. Compare that to the Eagles, who only have 8 players over 29. That kind of youth versus age contrast is massive. We've got fresh legs, speed, and upside. They've got mileage, injury risk, and declining production. Then there's reason 5. Their pass rush might be a major weakness. Not a single one of their projected starting defensive linemen, Dorrance Armstrong, Dietrich Wise, Don Payne, Javon Kinlaw, had more than 5 sacks in 2024. That's not going to get it done in today's NFL, especially not against receivers like A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith. Sure, they've got Mike Sanger still at corner, who's promising, but Marshawn Lattimore is aging, Jonathan Jones hasn't looked elite, and rookie Trey Amos, even with his speed, is untested. You're telling me that unit can stop Philly's air attack? I don't see it. Reason 6 adds to the concern. Washington had one of the worst run defenses in the NFL last season, giving up nearly 138 rushing yards per game. That's the kind of stat that makes Saquon Barkley lick his chops. The only teams that were worse were the Saints and the Panthers, and none of the teams in that bottom group had winning records. The Commanders were the outlier. That doesn't usually last. Now, let's talk about their offense real quick. Reason 7. They ranked 3rd in rushing yards last year. Sounds great, right? Until you realize how much of that came from Jayden Daniels. He ran the ball 148 times for 891 yards. That's 6 yards per carry and 6 touchdowns. Those are big numbers, but it's a dangerous game to play when your quarterback is carrying your ground game. It's not sustainable. One wrong hit, and everything changes. Other mobile QBs like Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts have strong backfields around them. Washington doesn't. Daniels had more carries than Austin Ekeler, more than backup RBs combined. That can't be their long-term strategy. And speaking of Daniels, that brings us to reason 8. It's not guaranteed that he's going to get better. Everyone assumes year 2 is an automatic step forward for young QBs, but history says otherwise. Vince Young, Sam Bradford, Robert Griffin III, even C.J. Stroud, all saw their QBR drop after winning Rookie of the Year. Sure, guys like Justin Herbert and Cam Newton broke the trend, but they're exceptions. Jayden Daniels had a QBR of 70.6 as a rookie. That's impressive, but can he sustain it with a worse supporting cast and a brutal schedule? We'll dig even deeper in part 2, including the final 2 reasons that really tie everything together and explain why this matters so much for the Eagles' 2025 campaign. But before we continue, I want to hear from you. Let's keep it going, because this breakdown just keeps getting more revealing. We're down to the final 2 reasons why the Washington Commanders might be headed straight for a collapse in 2025, and trust me, these are the ones that tie everything together and should really catch the attention of every Eagles fan out there. Reason number 9 is flat out wild. The Commanders had an absolutely insane 4th down conversion rate last season, 20 for 23. That's an 87% success rate on 4th down. Let me say that again, 87%. That's not just the best in the league last year. It's the best 4th down conversion rate of any team in the Super Bowl era. Now, let's be real for a second. That's not just unsustainable. It's practically a statistical miracle. No team converts at that rate consistently, especially when the pressure's on. Football is a game of inches, of fluke bounces, of one missed block or one penalty deciding the outcome of a play. And they managed to go 20 of 23? That's not going to happen again. Kempski put it perfectly. When you have that kind of success in those do-or-die situations, it skews the perception of how good your offense really is. Take those conversions away, or even just cut them down to a league average rate, and the Commanders probably lose several more games. That alone could shift them from a 12-5 team to a team barely scraping .500. So for the Eagles, who face this team twice a year, understanding that they might not be able to rely on that kind of 4th down magic again is huge. Those margins matter when you're trying to win the NFC East and earn playoff seeding. And now, reason number 10, the one that speaks volumes about coaching decisions under pressure. It was the NFC Championship game.